Editor Newware here. Listen, you guys, these video interviews are long. And to be fair, all of them are long. I mean, I've had ones that were an hour to 4 hours long. So I'm breaking them up. However, I couldn't tell you how many videos this particular interview is going to be in, but I try to break them up between 20 and 30 minutes. So I'll leave a link in the description for the playlist for this interview, as well as the sequence in which this interview video is. I hope you guys enjoy, so let's just hop right back into it. Welcome back to Chocolate Espresso Podcast. I'm your host, Thomas Newware, whatever floats your boat. Hey, listen, I got to do the same thing as I always do every time we do this. You got to hit that like, share, and subscribe. But if you don't, that's okay. I'll still love you almost as much as that fly that was buzzing around in the pond. And then, that frog that was hopping around on the lily pads. It saw it and it was like, man, that's my dinner. And then it missed, but it went into the water, but it came back up and then it got you. I want you to be like that fly. I still love you because you're part of the ecosystem. You feel me? I love that. And I love you too. Probably not really. But hey, listen, I'm back at it again with these interviews. I love doing them. The whole purpose of it is to kind of share knowledge with everybody. I'm hoping this kind of gets up and going. I got young youth up in the audience here. I got them up here in the studio as well. You know what? If you don't know, now you know. I always let them introduce themselves because trust me, they can do it better than me. So I'm going to pass the buck. I'm going to start over here.
Bet. My name's Skippy, Skippy Stone, I should say. Do all the things, artist, producer, etc. From right here in Minneapolis. So
cool. And I'm Hthadreamer, artist, producer from St. Paul.
Nice. Like I said before, there's simple questions, nothing too hard. I don't like to trip anybody up here because, like I said, the purpose of it is just to share knowledge. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to just jump right into it. You know how I do, you guys. No wasting time around here. First simple question. How'd you get started?
For me, honestly, it started like back in the GarageBand days. I had literally the GarageBand app on my phone from, I think it comes with every iPhone, I'm pretty sure. But I started just as a young kid, I would make beats on there, just having fun with it. I mean, I've always been in, I've done band, I'm a drummer, I'm musical all my life and all that jazz. But yeah, it wasn't until I started doing beats on my phone where I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. And then I had a laptop that also had GarageBand on it. And then I was like, oh, on the laptop, you have more things you can do. Started doing that, really, really enjoyed it. And then from there, made my, in senior year, a couple years back, I made my first track, recorded it at a library in Brooklyn Park. They had a little studio in there. It was microphone, whatever. And I was like, let's go. Me and my buddy went there, recorded. And I loved it. From there, I had a lot of fun recording, a lot of fun, putting it out, hearing what people had to say about it and stuff. And people thought it was good. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it again. And now I've done it a lot more times. So yeah.
Nice. What about you?
Yeah, very similar path with the music. I started more in middle school. I was same way. I had the GarageBand on my little school iPad that they gave you. So I would be making beats on there just every day, playing them to my friends. They liked it. They would groove to it. Some of them would even freestyle on it. And then later on in the years, I got onto the computer version of FL Studio and started doing the tracks on there. And really from producing, I took kind of the leap in a few weeks to artists more, started to put my vocals on more tracks, started to really get more into the rapping more, and kind of where we are today.
Man, that's dope. I'm going to date myself. That first year they offered iPads, man. That's what they gave it to us. I was flicking that thing in the air, catching it. The assistant principal saw me doing it. She took it. she's like, you're not going to get it back. I was like, okay, and walked away. She's like, wait. You can't be flipping it around. I'm like,
yeah.
Teachers didn't know what they were doing with that thing. So it was like, they just made us carry it around and they weren't using it at all in the classrooms. It's like, what's the purpose of it? So anyway, I graduated that year. I was like, I don't need to take care of this. I heard people aren't even graduating if you don't turn that thing in, or if the charger's missing or any of that jazz. It's like, that's crazy.
It's like a whole checklist. They call it the passport that you have to go through. So if you don't got the brick, if you don't got the charger itself, they're going to charge you for that. And you don't bring it back, they're going to hold your diploma, everything.
That's why.
Man, I don't even know. We didn't get a personal laptop, that's for sure. Like, I know a lot of people, like, just before COVID and during COVID started to get, like, they gave everybody like Chromebooks and like stuff like that. We still had to, I didn't have to worry about like returning anything. They just had like the big carts of like 50 of them. And if you needed them, you used it in class and then returned it. So yeah, I didn't have to. Lucky, because I would have lost all of it. So it's wild.
That was one of my biggest fears too. It's cool that you guys were able to utilize some of the tools that the school system gave you to kind of start it off. And it sounded like you had your own, but
yeah, it was. Yeah, when I first got I think either iPod or my first iPhone or something. That's what I was using on my phone.
So I guess the next question is, what are some of the tools now that you're utilizing to kind of help you with your creative flow, or just in your day to day when it comes to music making and being, in that kind of industry?
Yeah, I mean, my setup has grown a lot. I used to work at Guitar Center, and that's where I got like a ton of my stuff. Like, every single check just went back into gear, which is kind of the classic story at this point for anyone who works at Guitar Center. It's like, oh, putting it right back in the store. But that literally is what happened. I bought new mics and stuff. I'm using, I got a shiny new Neumann TLM 10. Well, I started with a 102. Got new monitors, Yamaha monitors, a whole 9 yards sub. So now, and at this point, like flash forward, me and a buddy of mine have a studio, Spenny's Room Studio. We run it up in North St. Paul, and it's got like all this stuff in there. We got a compressor and whatnot. The speakers, a whole 9 yards. I'm a Logic user, but I also do use Pro Tools for mixing and stuff. I prefer that. So pretty much, like, I honestly think I have everything I need. Like, obviously I don't have, I'm not in some industry like crazy studio 36 channel board, but it's like few good mics. I have a drum set of my own because I'm a drummer. I have a guitar, pretty much anything you need to just get going, I have. Plus, at this point, more so because I spend all my checks on music. So,
I mean, that's how you got to start, right?
Yeah. When at this point, if I would have saved all that money, I'd be so rich. But it's okay.
Yeah.
I like it.
How about you?
Yeah, nowadays I'm utilizing a lot of FL, whether that's the mobile version just on my phone or the actual DAW on my computer. When I'm trying to get just ideas out fast, I would just open my phone real quick and just play the notes and then either send it to myself or try to make a full track on there. But if it's like more trying to get like actual song produced and arranged, I'll do it the DAW version, like do the ultimate mix of it all. And when I'm recording most of my stuff, I actually use my phone. So I'll use like the voice memos app, wrap into it real quick, airdrop it to my computer, and then drop it into the track. So it's like a whole little process that I do. But that's where most of my stuff gets done. I do it in my room, just at home. So yeah,
that's pretty dope. Either one of you guys ever like out and about and just record the sounds and try to make a beat out of just the random sounds you can kind of come across? Or is it all basically in-house with the software you're using?
No, I like to record a lot of ambient sounds. So a big thing I like rain sounds. So whenever it rains, I'll be quick to pull on my phone right away. There's thunder, even better. Bird sounds. I like just any little ambient things that I can throw in the background. I just like to throw in there.
Yeah, I've done similar things. Like a lot of my last album, Voyager, had tons of like ambient stuff, which some of it was like, I was just, a lot of times when you have an idea, I'm like in the studio already and I'm not like, oh man, I got to go outside and record this thing. I'm usually just like, I'm just working now. So I just look up like ambience, whatever, millions of samples online. But, I've done a lot of the same stuff. I mean, there's a track that I have coming up that I'm calling Dirty Laundry, and I sampled a washing machine, because when they're going, like you have the hum. It's like I did that and then put it into like a sampler. So I like played out all the notes and whatnot. You get the weird like percussive elements of like the clothes like spinning around and stuff. So that's coming out soon. I'm sure we'll get to stuff like that, plugs later, but I'm pretty hype about that. That was like one of those moments where you're just like, wow, people will talk about this. They'll be like, he sampled a washing machine. That's crazy. I was like, I don't know. I felt proud in that moment. So
that's pretty cool. Yeah. It's like, I don't know much about a lot of this industry, but I've seen quite a few things like little snippets and stuff. It's always interesting, especially like last night at that, what was it called? Space Jam.
Space Jam.
Yeah. It's kind of dope, and you can see something kind of just be made right on the spot, and some of the creativity that comes out of it. And like I said, like there are people literally who keep a microphone in their back pocket, and they're just like walking around and maybe on a train station and are like, oh, that's a cool little sound. And they'll try to like get that real quick. And then later on they'll go back home and then they're like making a whole song out of it. And it's like, man, you got that from the most random thing of your day. Like how,
Yeah.
But people do it. Another question for you. So when you're in the software, right, what are some of the like links or websites you can utilize? Like so let me rephrase that. How many different websites do you have to go through before you feel like you got something solid? Or how many times you have to redo something before you feel like you got something solid?
I guess how many times I have to redo something is a lot different than just the website's question. How many times I have to redo things is like a lot. Me personally, I will always like mix, remix. I'm like super like particular when it comes to sounds and stuff like that. So for me, it takes a while. I definitely have a couple pass throughs. Websites is harder, you know what I'm saying? I guess I don't use a ton, but I use like, depending on it kind of just all depends on the moment, really, at the end of the day. Like if I'm using something from Splice, or I just look up, like I said earlier, like look up ambience, and you just find some like YouTube rip of like 10 hours long nature ambience, and you're like, oh, I'll just get a clip of that. So, I guess I don't use a ton of like other websites other than just like the software and other things. But
side question of that. So with the website you guys use, does it cost money? Are you able to find, so from my understanding, right, there's a lot of people, especially when you start off, like they just Google a quick little website and it's like, oh yeah, you want this soundbite? It's going to come with, they have that like trademark on that soundbite, or like they might have some other stuff on there. So the only way to really kind of get access to it is if you are paying for a subscription or something of that nature. Like, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. When I started, it kind of depends, because, obviously there's a lot of stuff I do where I don't use like a sample or whatever, and I'm just like writing whatever I'm using, just the instruments. But if you are going to use a sample, like what I started, there was a website called Looperman. Have you ever heard of that? Yeah. There's a website called Looperman that was pretty sweet when I started. And it's still honestly cool, because it's kind of like I guess it's like a Reddit type thing for like people just upload their samples there. And it's like users just do it. So it's kind of just like a collective of artists just being like, yo, put this sample here, let's sample this. And it's all free. A lot of them, it's dope if you like hit up the person who made the sample and be like, yo, I use this beat. Like they like to hear that kind of stuff, but it technically is free. You don't have to pay for it. There's lots of others that are paid, Tracklib, Splice, etc., that I do have subscriptions to, because I think they have cool things. But I don't know if you have any others. Looperman is the main one that I used to use.
Yeah, a lot of Looperman. One of the big things, I like to sample a lot for YouTube, so I'll use a lot of YT to MP3 converters. Even if I just have like a sample on my phone, I'll do a MP4 to MP3 converter. So just simple, not a converters. As far as samples though, I'll use the Splices, the Loopermans I used a lot when I was getting into producing. I can't really think of nothing else though that I used.
Yeah. especially not free.
Yeah.
Even YouTube, like you got to be careful what you're grabbing because people could come at you for that, depending on
I've had
what it
songs
is.
with thousands of views that got copyright stricken, and all that progress, it feels like is lost because kind of once you see that copyright strike status, it feels like it's diminished in a way.
Yeah.
That's wild. I mean, these are some of the things that I'm trying to get out there, because when you start off, I'm sure some people do a little research. I mean, leading into the next question, like when you started and you really wanted to go more serious with it, like how much research did you do into it?
Like tons, pretty much. It was kind of like, I guess I didn't do a ton of like front load research, but it does take a lot. Like for me, I just started doing it. And then when I had a question like, oh, why do my vocals sound like weird like this? And you look it up, like how to mix vocals. And then you have that. And then you're like, but how do I put it on platforms? How do I release things? How do I do this? How do I do that? Like any question I had, I just always had to Google it because I didn't have, I just was by myself doing whatever. So it's a lot of research. Like I said, I didn't quite do it. I didn't like quite front load anything, but it was like all over time for me.
One of my favorite things to do was, what was the question again?
Oh, how much research did you do when you kind of started off?
Oh yeah. So when I first got started on the producer side, just trying to figure out how to arrange the beats the best and trying to see what the other industry producers were kind of doing. I watched a lot of the Genius Deconstructed videos. So I saw how like the Metro Boomins, I saw how the Swizz beats, I saw how they made the beats. And really watching that, it's kind of like you get a look into their creative process, but also you take little bits and pieces here and there and you slowly start to apply it to yourself that you don't even notice until you're like, oh, I just did this and I got it from the video I just watched. Or, oh, I'm doing the same thing that I learned from this producer. So really just some of the biggest inspirations I look at, not only on producers, but artists altogether, I would see like their studio sessions. How are they acting? How are they kind of holding themselves? How are they kind of approaching everything? And really looking at that and comparing it to like where I want to be, kind of adapt to that in a way that makes sense.
Right.
For sure. I think it's really hard. I mean, this is an easy question. If you could have gone to like one place and it's like, hey, this is what I think you should do. These are some of the resources, the fastest way to find it. Would you have rather like gotten that resource from one source and they kind of broke down all their other resources you're going to need? Or would you prefer like, nah, this isn't exactly what I'm looking for. I'm just going to like grab it from everywhere, learn as I go. Like, what would you have preferred?
I'm not going to lie. I'm a big factor on taking in information from everyone. So if I can learn something from you and someone can add on to that or even give their opinion, I want to take both sides in. So really, I would want to take in as much as I can as opposed to one, because yeah, that would be the best, but you get all these different angles. You get these different people who probably look at it different than this person. So I feel like that's a good reason why I would do that.
Yeah, I agree mostly. Like I think there's two sides kind of. Like for me, I would say a lot of the information I think is really helpful if you just have like one knowledgeable person. Because I was just talking about this with some of my buddies recently, actually. It's like on YouTube, on things like that, like, and on the internet, there's just so much information out there. And at least 50% of it is just like trash information. You know, they're like, oh, dude, I'll just slam this compressor and then that's how you mix your vocal, and just do this and this and this, download this preset and you're going to be sounding like Drake. It's like, that's obviously fake. So, but then there's so many people who will be like, oh yeah, you're right. You download that stuff and whatever. So like, I think it can help a lot if you have someone who's really smart or someone you trust or someone who like wants to take you under their wing that can kind of consolidate all the like good information for you, especially when it comes down to like industry stuff. There's not necessarily a right or wrong way, but when it comes to like copyright and releasing music and stuff, there's kind of there's just kind of a way you end up having to do it no matter what. And it's good to have somebody who just knows that, so you don't have to like search through archives of information and be like, how do I get all my royalties? You know, like all that stuff. But I agree for like tips, tricks, and like, inspiration, I think it's always good to still like, you know, that one dude, how he mixes things might not be how another person does it. And you want to find your lane there. So I think it can be helpful to have one person, but it does go, I think it, you know, is good to have both for sure.
And I would really say with all the ideas and the things that you learn too, try to form your own into that. See what works best for you. See what makes your workflow faster so that you're able to either produce or just create at a much higher pace. I think would be a good thing.
Oh, for sure.
So if you had like, well, two questions, right? First one is, do you have a mentor? And second one, what kind of mentor would you want if you don't have one?
I don't have one. Not by the traditional sense, somebody who I just have been talking to and whatnot, learning the game from. Did it pretty much just YouTube and me and stuff. So I think if I like a person, the kind of mentor I really want at this point, like at this point in my life, I can say would be someone who was super knowledgeable kind of on the like business end of the creation aspect. Just somebody who can kind of guide me in a right direction, but isn't like, you know, I guess I don't need to be like an apprentice where it's like learn my ways and do what I'm specifically doing, but someone who's really just smart and be like, oh, like I can ask him a question about like, this is what I want to do, or this is where I want to go. And they're able to be like, oh, okay. Yeah. I kind of have an idea of like how to get you there. Versus somebody who's just like following my footsteps and do what I do. Cause you know, you want to have your creative expression and all that. But I do think for me, it would have been helpful to have somebody who's just like to ask those questions too, like I was talking to earlier, as opposed to like, you know, it took me years to figure out how to mix good. Cause I was like change every single time I did a song, I did it differently because I didn't know what I was doing. A different tutorial told me a different thing. And so then I did that. And then I was like, still doesn't sound good. Whereas, you know, if you just had somebody who's like, oh no, this is how you do it, you know? So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I would say the same on mine. I don't really have a mentor right now at this moment, but what I would look for in one is really someone that kind of understands me and the way I think, like both creatively and just in general, and kind of just, I don't know, just giving me that push, that boost to want to continue to strive for that. I feel like in the beginning of my career it would have been more convenient when I had like all the simple questions, like, you know, how do I get my music out there? You know, how do I start to promote it? How do I get people to notice it and want to come back to it? But I feel like now what I want more, if I was to get like a mentor or even someone to just help me along the way, is just someone that can, just a music friend, you know, someone you can talk to about music, someone that you can just talk to and they know what's best for you. They know they're not going to use you or try to exploit you.
Yeah,
for sure. With the music side of everything, or the business side of the music that you guys are doing, what are some of the headaches that you've came across over the years?
You said with the business side?
Mm-hmm.
Dude, all of it. Like that is literally, I've said this and I continue to say it, is like I'm a musician, I'm a creative and all that kind of stuff. And like the business side is like completely opposite. I think the biggest headache for me is just marketing and outreach. You know, I mean, that's kind of the game for everybody, right? Like everyone in here is like, oh, you know, there's so much more going into it than just like put out my song and wait for it to get millions, right? Like I put out a great song and 100 people hear it ever, you know, and you're like, okay, how do I change that? You know, we're still working towards that. We're still getting better at that. That for sure on the non-creative end is like the hardest part for sure.
Yeah, I would say the same with me. A big thing that I would say is most of my headache is doubting myself, but not in like a traditional sense that, oh, I'm not a good rapper, oh, I'm not a good producer. But like if they're able to take in what I'm saying and not really getting the wrong representation of it or getting the wrong vibe from it, because I feel like my music is very much open interpretation to whoever catches, a vibe for it or who likes it. But I say marketing too, because trying to get it to everyone, but no one noticing it, that'll kind of kill your self-esteem. You'll be like, oh man, they didn't like it and I really like that song. So kind of like getting rid of that voice in the back of your head or trying to suppress it, because I would say that creates a lot of headaches with everyone, is doubting yourself and really considering if, maybe it's all worth it or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What are like some of your, how can I put this? What do you feel like is something that's very common in the industry that could be very distracting for you? That might be the hardest question to ask you guys.
Let me really think about this. Something that is common in the industry but can be distracting. For me, something that I find myself a lot is sort of just like the image that somebody who makes it has. And I guess what I mean by that is everyone has their very specific ways on like how to make it, and every single interview and things like that. Not everyone, but so many of them are like, you gotta work hard, work every day. You got a family, can't talk to them. You got a girlfriend, bye. Like, you gotta drop everything in your life for music or you'll never get anywhere. And I think that narrative gets pushed so heavily amongst people who like get a certain level of success. They're like, that's how I did it. And like there's some merit to that. You have to put a lot of work in. But for me, like I have a lot going on in my life. I have people that I care about. I have things other than music that I do, work, because we're not making money out here. We got to work still. There's so much other things in your life that you still need to do. Yet a lot of things in like media and everything tells you need to drop all of that for music or you'll never get there. And time will tell if that's true. If I don't drop everything, we'll see if that really bites me in the butt. But I think I just don't generally agree with that. I think you can still have a good like balance of your life and not just destroy the rest of your life just for music. And, but it can get really like overwhelming and also discouraging when you're like, maybe I shouldn't be doing this today and I should just be in the studio grinding. And maybe I shouldn't, my family wants me to do this, but I got to be in the studio. It starts to kind of play a toll on personally my mental. So that's one of the things that I've been fighting with recently is just kind of that work-life balance, and try not to be too overwhelmed by that kind of stuff.
I would say comparing yourself to others and maybe looking at an artist who has it all and like, oh, I want that. And maybe they're living flashy and you're like this, and try to think that it questions your worth. And also that like the image, like you were saying, I feel like a lot of people think, oh, you're a rapper, but you're not constantly posting pictures with money. You don't have all these cars, so that don't make you a good rapper. Or, oh, labels don't want to sign you because you're not good. So I feel like a lot of just the ignorance that comes with classifying people as rappers or artists and trying to put them in a box is really what gets a lot of people stuck and what has me kind of in that.
Thanks for watching this video all the way to the end. We really appreciate it. A special shout out to Green Screen Studios here in St. Paul, Minnesota. Listen, if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, you can direct message us either on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. It's always going to be chocolate_espresso_. Listen, we really appreciate you. I said it once, I said it twice. I'm going to say it a billion times if that's what it takes. If you guys want to reach out to us, especially if you know anyone or if maybe you want to be interviewed about your job, the goal is to really teach a lot of youth about the different opportunities that are available to them. College is great. It's always going to be great. Not everybody wants to go to college, or maybe college just isn't on the table right now. So I want to push as much content that pertains to jobs and jobs that may or may not require college. Maybe you just need to network. Maybe you just got to put a lot of work into the beginning as an entry-level person. But, I really look forward to producing as many interviews as I can and posting it. I appreciate you guys, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day.